All right, let's jump right in. We're about to take a tour of one of nature's most amazing manufacturing plants. I mean, this thing is microscopic, it's super efficient, and it's happening all around you right now. We are, of course, talking about a flower's pollen factory.
So, have you ever really thought about it? How in the world does a flower build something as unbelievably complex as a single pollen grain? It seems so simple, but the answer? Wow, it's this incredible story of biological engineering, perfect precision, and split-second timing.
Okay, so our journey begins with the stamen. That's the male part of the flower. And right at the very tip, you'll find the anther. Now, this is the building we're interested in. The anther is our factory floor, the exact spot where all the pollen production magic happens. So what you're looking at here is basically a blueprint of the factory floor, a cross-section of that anther. You can clearly see these four main production chambers, right? Those are called microsporangia. And that thing right in the center, think of that as the factory's main supply line. It's the vascular bundle, and it's pumping in all the raw materials like nutrients and water that they're going to need. But hold on, before a single grain of pollen can be made, you gotta build the factory first, right? And this entire intricate structure starts from just a handful of simple, basic cells. It's literally a massive construction project, all on a microscopic scale. And this is where it all begins. I know, it just looks like a simple clump of cells, but what you're seeing is the very first stage. Even now, these cells are already starting to organize themselves, laying down the foundation for the complex factory that's about to be built. And it's not just about making more cells. These cells are getting specialized. They're dividing and arranging themselves into these really distinct layers. You can think of them as creating specialized departments within the factory wall. And trust me, each department is going to have a very, very specific job. What you end up with is this incredibly precise four-layer system. On the outside, you've got the epidermis. That's the protective shell. Then there's the endothecium, which gives it all structural support, kind of like the steel beams. The middle layer, that's mostly just temporary filler. But then you get to the tapetum. Oh, the tapetum is crucial. It's like the factory's combination nursery and cafeteria, providing all the critical life support for the precious cargo being made inside. All right, the factory is built, the departments are all staffed and ready to go. So now it's time for the main event. We're firing up the production line. It's time to start making microspores, the little precursors to our final pollen grains. And guess who's back playing a starring role? The tapetum. This single layer of cells is the ultimate support crew. It's feeding the developing microspores, it's giving them essential enzymes. I mean, if the tapetum fails, the whole production line just shuts down. It is that important. So how does the assembly line actually work? Well, it uses a special kind of cell division called meiosis, and it's actually a pretty neat two-step deal. You start with one microspore mother cell. It divides once, making two cells. Then, boom, those two cells immediately divide again. So what's the result? From that one single parent cell, you get a neat little bundle of four microspores, called a tetrad. This diagram really lays it all out for us. See over on the left? That's our single parent cell, the microsporocyte. It goes through that meiosis we just talked about, and poof, you get this cluster of four microspores. But notice how they're all stuck together? They're actually temporarily shrink-wrapped, you could say, inside a special coating called callose. Okay, so how do you get them out of the package? Well, our hero, the tapetum, swoops in to the rescue again. It releases a very specific enzyme called callase. And this enzyme's only job is to dissolve that callose coating, breaking open the package and setting the four individual microspores free. Now, don't get ahead of yourself. These little microspores are free, but they are not the finished product. Not even close. Think of them like a car engine without the car. They still need to be fully assembled into a mature pollen grain. And a huge part of that is giving them some seriously tough protective packaging. And this packaging is a brilliant two-layer defense system. The inside wall, the intine, is actually pretty flexible. It's designed to eventually grow into the pollen tube when it's time for fertilization. But the outer layer, the exine, whoa, that's the real superstar. It's basically biological armor plating. And check this out. The stuff the exine is made of, it's called sporopollenin, and it is one of the toughest organic materials on the entire planet.
Seriously, it's so resilient that it can protect pollen grains in the fossil record for thousands, even millions of years. How incredible is that? Okay, the armor is on. Now there's just one last step, and it happens on the inside. You can see it here. The microspores nucleus divides one final time. This is super important because it creates the two male gametes, those are the sperm cells, and something called the vegetative nucleus. That vegetative nucleus is like the pilot. It's going to steer the pollen tube later. And with that, we officially have a mature, fully armed and operational pollen grain. So, the product is finished, it's packaged, it's ready to go. There's only one thing left to do. Open the factory doors and ship it out to the world. It is officially shipping day. Now there's a cool scientific name for this grand opening, Anther dehiscence. And let me tell you, this is not some gentle, quiet process. It's a carefully controlled explosion designed to launch that pollen out as far and wide as possible. So what pulls the trigger? Well, it all starts with a very precise chemical switch. As the anther gets ready, a stop signal basically gets turned off. Think of it like a safety switch being flipped. This allows a bunch of go signals to fire up, telling the anther walls to get thicker and stronger, almost like reinforcing the launch bay doors before they blow open. And this is the final countdown. For a long time, a hormone called auxin has been acting like a safety lock, keeping everything sealed shut. But as the pollen finishes maturing, the auxin levels start to drop. And that drop is the key. It lets a different hormone, jasmonic acid, flood the system. And that surge of JA is the final, irreversible command, open the doors. And the mechanics of the release are just awesome to think about. First, the walls between those four production chambers just dissolve. Then, the whole anther starts to dry out, causing those reinforced walls to shrink and bend. This builds up an incredible amount of tension until, snap, the stomium, which is basically a preset weak spot, just rips open, and all that pollen gets launched out into the world. So, okay, why should we care about this tiny little factory? It's just a flower, right? Well, think about this. If we can truly understand all its secrets, we can start to control it. What if we could fine-tune this whole process to make our crops more productive, or to create brand new plant hybrids? The possibilities are absolutely huge, and it all starts with understanding the incredible biological engineering happening right inside the anther.